Hi everybody, Dr. Scott Keller with Synergy Chiropractic. This week, or this video, we're going to cover another really important concept, starting clear down at the feet and the ankles. So the last time we talked about the tripod of the foot, once again to stress how important that is. Balance and coordination, and especially when you're on a single leg, if that's a problem, that's going to cause all sorts of issues, or the possibility of causing all sorts of issues, not only in the foot, the ankle, but the knee, the hip, and the spine. Today, we're moving up into the joint of the ankle. It's called the ankle mortise joint. It basically is the joint between your tibia bone, which is your shin bone, and the first big bone of your ankle called the talus or talus, however you want to pronounce it. This joint is responsible for both what we call plantar flexion, which is basically pointing your toes or your ankle, your foot towards the ground, and dorsiflexion, which is bringing your toes and your whole foot up towards your knee. We're going to cover a little bit of both of those motions because they're both very important in just proper mechanics of the body, but we're going to focus on dorsiflexion of the ankle, okay? And when you have a problem with stiffness or rigidity in the ankle mortise joint, specifically with dorsiflexion, it's going to wreak some havoc as well. You're going to see all sorts of compensations. So I don't want to go into too great of depth and complexity here, but basically when we see a lack of dorsiflexion in the feet, let's just take the squat, for example. We'll see people squat a lot wider than they have to compensate for that motion, lack of motion. We'll see people who flare their feet out too wide because if you can't get your knees over your toes when you're squatting and then your hips down, you're going to have to compensate by doing this basically, because then the joint doesn't need as much motion. You can translate that into just about anything. You don't have to be doing squats for that lack of motion to affect you. Walking, running, going up and down stairs, if you don't have proper motion in this joint, it's going to affect you. A lot of the people watching this video are going to be doing things like biking and maybe rowing on row machines, even cardiovascular exercise like that. You need ankle dorsiflexion in order to not compromise your knees and your hips. So what we're going to do is we're going to mobilize that joint. Now, the disclaimer again is you don't really know if you have this problem unless you test it a little bit first. So we're going to go over just a real simple screen for you to know just if you have a little stiffness in this joint. Maybe you already know because you feel it and you have a problem with some of those simple things I talked about in the squat, flaring your feet or having a really wide stance, etc. But what you can do is you can just get down in a kneeling position and keeping the foot flat on the floor. If you start taking your knee forward, and I have a little bit of an issue in this side from a past injury, but I can still get my knee fairly far over my toes here. So what we're looking for is close to about a 45-degree angle between the floor and your tibia here. So if you feel like you can only go to here, where you look down on your toes or your knees right over your toes, that's definitely not enough. You should be able to drive that knee over that toe quite a bit further than that. So again, just a simple screen to see if you have an issue with that. That kind of goes right into the first exercise, actually. The first mobility drill is to just get in that kneeling lunge position and drive the knee over the toes. You're keeping the knee fairly safe in that position. We don't coach or teach a lot of people to have their knees out in front of their toes very often, specifically like in a squat. But if you're non-weight bearing here and you're just doing this kind of motion, as long as your knee doesn't hurt in that position, you're pretty safe. And just start rocking the knee forward in nice, slow, controlled manner. 10, 15, 20 repetitions, whatever it takes. Again, if you have a problem with this, you're going to feel like your heel wants to come up off the floor, so keep that sucker planted down and try to drive over. I do also like to change the angle a little bit, so just so you can see it from the front, if I'm driving my knee straight over my toes this way, I'm going to also take it a little bit out so my knee's angling over my little or pinky toe, and that's going to be an important angle to also kind of mobilize a little bit. Okay, If you ever feel any pinching or sharp pains in that joint, it'd be advisable to just stop what you're doing and probably seek someone's care or opinion, such as ourselves. You might have some issues with the joint that's a little further beyond what you can do on yourself. The next step, though, if that feels like, okay, that loosens it up a little bit, but maybe not quite enough, what you can do is get one of these bands. These are called monster bands. They're pretty thick, pretty strong bands. I'm going to loop it around or tie it to a solid object, which is not going to be this chair. I'm just going to kind of show you, since I don't have anything to hook it to here, but maybe a post or something that's not going to move, something that has a lot of weight to it. What I'm going to do is step through, and I'll show you with this foot, step through the band and place the band as low on the ankle as you can get it, basically right below or at the level of the malleoli, which are the two ankle bones there. You're going to get it right there. Step out so there's quite a bit of tension on the band. Once again, I'm not going to do that just for sake of my chair will swing and hit me here. You're going to take a stance like this, kind of a lunge stance. That band is pulling backwards on the talus bone, so that first ankle bone, and we're going to drive the knee again over the top of my toes. First straight forward, and second a little bit of an angle out over my little toe. And as you do that, again, try not to let the heel come off of the floor. Okay? Once again, if your knee bothers you to do that, it's advisable to stop and seek some consultation on that. But otherwise, you can hold on to a wall, you can hold on to a chair, something like that, where you can get more motion in that joint. So once again, 10, 12, 15 repetitions of each angle can really help mobilize that joint. If you still feel like, okay, that's helping, that's working, maybe go a little bit further. This is just a little piece of equipment we have in our office, but you could take a little weight plate, maybe a 5-pound plate, a 10-pound plate, and put it on the floor, put the band around, and just put the ball of your foot up on it, and then again, you can increase a little bit more of that dorsiflexion motion. All right? The other thing that I just don't want to forget to at least mention, what can also limit dorsiflexion is if you have a lot of tightness in the calf muscles. So obviously these come down into the Achilles tendon and then continue down fascially into the bottom of the foot. So these being tight can limit how much you can move your foot up. So if that seems to be a problem for you, you can also do some techniques to stretch and to release those calf muscles, which also might free up that dorsiflexion motion, using something like a foam roller like this. The other motion is plantar flexion. So I know it's another important one. Not as many people struggle with this one, but we're going to cover it as well. The first thing we can do is just grab that foam roller and get that foam roller right on the front of the shin and just start rolling that muscle right on the front. So the muscle right along the shin bone here, on the kind of on the side of it, the lateral side, is called the tibialis anterior. And if it gets tight, it's going to limit plantar flexion that way. Okay? The other stretch you can do is, again, if you're just in a kneeling position here, foot is flat on the floor, drive that knee kind of down into extension, keeping those toes pointed towards the floor. And again, just start doing some motion like that. Slow, dynamic, good, controlled motion. And you're going to feel that stretching right through there. A lot of people who run a lot or have a lot of pounding on their feet or stand on hard floors all day long, they'll get shin splints. And shin splints can either be on the back side or the front side. And so this is something, both of these things are things that you should address with those kind of injuries, as well as foot, ankle, knee, and hip issues as well. So again, hope this helped you out. If you have questions, let us know. My email is scott@synergylincoln.com. Phone number is 402-328-2660. Don't hesitate to give our clinic a call. You can ask for me, and I'd love to chat with you about any of this. Until next time, take care.